people say, "Oh, you're high, you're making this up," whatever. But I swear there was no room. The AC wasn't on. There was no windows in the room, but I felt a slight breeze come through that room. And I had one of those. I don't know if you guys have, for those who've been in the hospital and they put those monitors to monitor your heart rate on your finger. My heart was beep 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 beep, beep. And when that breeze came through, it was like beep 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 beep, and it just went completely back to normal. And it was, I had never felt that amount of peace, like immense peace in my entire life.
Hey, hunting family, what's going on tonight? Got a good one for you this evening. It's Ron Menser, the Arrow Eagle, and I am here, as always, with my co-host, Kris Bookman. How you doing, Kris?
What's up, dude? How are you?
Loving life, living the dream. You know how it is. I want to get into this pretty quick here. We got a awesome guest here. Let me run through this intro. At age 21, construction accident left Derek Demun as a T8 paraplegic, but it didn't stop him. It fueled him. Now an accomplished hunter, archer, and host of the T8 Outdoors podcast, Derek lives as proof that the adventure has no limits. And on this episode of Tracks and Tackle, he's going to open up with us about hunting with disabilities, the adaptive gear, tough logistics, close calls in the field, from elk to alligators. Man, this guy, he's got a mindset that turns obstacles into opportunities. So expect real talk on perseverance, faith, and why the outdoors is for everyone. If you're facing challenges, or you just want to hear a good story, this is a good episode for you. Derek Demun, welcome to the show. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Super stoked to be here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, love having new guests and meeting people, and somebody like yourself. I'm really excited to hear your story. I know you and Kris connected, and thanks a lot for taking the time to come on the show tonight. Why don't you just take us back, man, and tell me a little bit about your life before the injury. What was your world like as you were doing some snowboarding and chasing winners around the globe? Like, you're an adventure guy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it wasn't just snowboarding. Like I took all my avalanche certification courses. Me and the boys were hiking. Like we'd hike miles with, you know, tents and sleeping bags on our backpacks. We camping in the snow, making snow caves, to sleep in, to get out of the wind. And that's like really where my hunting life kind of began, when I didn't even know it. Because you'd be out there, you'd be hiking these massive mountains, and you'd be coming across mountain goats, bighorn sheep, moose, herds of elk, you name it, I'm like, what? And just the outdoors, just that's where I was like closest with God. Don't get me wrong. I love going and serving my church, and going and having, fellowship with my friends and whatnot. But getting out in nature, and in the middle of nowhere, not a soul around, just you and the people your life is depending on, basically, when you're that far out, is just, that's where I truly was like neck and neck with God. Like that's where I really felt him speak with me the most, and just pushing me in the outdoors direction. So the addiction was always there, always
Yeah.
there.
Well, trust us, we get it, man. We get it.
Yeah,
You know, our phrase or tagline that we like to say is that nature is our playground, and we know that uh, getting outdoors brings you closer to your creator, man. You know, he set it up. So cool, man. Well, why don't you just give everybody an introduction? I've tried to sort of lay the groundwork on who you are and a little bit of your history, but why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what your mission and talk to us about what happened.
cool. Yeah. So, like I said, I used to travel the world snowboarding. Senior year in high school, and the next couple years out of high school, I would ride our winter, snowboard our winter, and then when our winter turns to summer, I'd fly south of the equator to get their winter. And that's all I ever wanted to do. That's all I ever saw myself doing was, just chasing snow and being a snow bum for the rest of my life. And it was I enjoyed every second of it too. Like with my injury, it got cut way short. But yeah, so I was doing that, and then at the time of my injury, I found myself in Lake Tahoe. I was, just working a quick side job to get some money for a plane ticket to go down to New Zealand. I already had everything lined up with some buddies I had met in Australia, and it was like 90 degrees outside, hot, and the roof that I was on had a slight slant to it, but it was gravel, and with the heat heating up that gravel, I was on the side at the time. I was just painting fascia, just something simply stupid. And it was only 11 feet. I was only 11 feet off the ground. People were like, "Oh, were you harnessed in?" I was like, harnessed in, like I was jumping off 60
Right.
foot cliffs. Like I'm 21. Like, you mean harnessed in? It's an 11-foot
Yeah.
roof. Come on now. Like, hey, really? But bit me in the butt. So anyway, I took a step back on that, and the asphalt on the roof just slipped out and gave out, and I fell over. Fell 11 feet. Doesn't seem like that far, but when you land shoulders first and feet in the air, right when I landed, my back just snapped, and
Mm.
next thing I know, I'm waking up to paramedics and helicopters and all that jazz. Mm.
So walk us through the first couple of like weeks or months after this happened, because processing something like that had to be a challenge, right? Talk us through like your mindset.
So at the very beginning, I was like injury, like, and they people were telling me in the hospital, like, oh, 6 months. I kept hearing 6 months, six
Hmm.
months. I'm like, so when people were calling me, I'm like, hey, yeah, no worries, dude. February, I'll be back up there February, and we'll be rocking and rolling. And had you know had a nurse come up and talk to me. He's like, hey, like, dude, like at 6 months, that's when the inflammation of your injury will start to subside. And that's when you might get some return back. Let's say, like, you might start moving a toe, or you might get a vertebrae back or whatever. Like, and so I didn't really realize it. And at the time, I was so hopped up on painkillers, going through a
Sure.
catastrophic, what I had was a catastrophic spinal cord injury. So my T8 vertebrae it was called a burst fracture. It exploded in like 12 different pieces. They literally had to go out and take parts of it out that were just too small to put back. And they made me a artificial vertebrae and put it back together. And then they put rods and screws and connected my T6 to T10. And that's kind of like, so people aren't realizing, like, T8 is about an inch under your nipple line, maybe 2 inches. And so just think, that area was just fused together. And I didn't realize, but it was hard. And then one day, one night, I was in my hospital room just by myself, and it really hit. And realized what had happened and what was going to happen. Life was never going to be the same.
Hmm.
Uh, but I had always I grew up in a house of faith. My mom had always brought me to church, and I was always praying. But I was at that time I was traveling the world snowboarding, so I'd be, you know, I read a chapter of my Bible and then go and party and smoking, drinking, whatever.
Yeah, we
Like
know.
yeah,
We
yeah,
were young
like
once. Yeah,
a
we
lot
get
of
it.
the majority of Christians I say have walked that route, But yeah, it was just it was tough, man, but there was one night specifically where I was in that hospital room and I was just bawling my eyes out, like, I don't know whether it was just like all the like everything just hit me at once or all the medication, but I was just like crying out and I was just bawling my eyes out. And I kind of like, God, like if you're real, Jesus, if you're real, like I need you to step in like right now, dude. Like
Hmm.
I'm losing it. Like I was at the point right there where I was like, find me a cord. I'll wrap it around my neck and I'll throw myself off the freaking the hospital
Yeah.
bed. Like at 21 years old, my whole life is done like that. Or everything that I had built up to that point. Like I was going to school to be a paramedic. I was going to be one of the paramedics who did the backcountry avalanche certifications and like guiding and all that stuff. Like I had everything planned out, and in the blink of an eye, it was over. 21 years of building just completely done. No idea what to do. No idea. I mean, that young, and it was just mind blowing. But I cried out to God, and I'm not. People say, "Oh, you're high, you're making this up, whatever." But I swear there was no room. The AC wasn't on. There was no windows in the room, but I felt a slight breeze come through that room. And I had one of those. I don't know if you guys have, for those who've been in the hospital and they put those monitors to monitor your heart rate on your finger. My heart was beep 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 beep, beep. And when that breeze came through, it was like beep 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 beep, and it just went completely back to normal, dude. And like, and it was, I had never felt that amount of peace, like immense peace in my entire life. And I still haven't to this day, other than that moment. But there's something so profound as that. It, it, I was like, all right, like this is, it's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of really bad, hard times. And it's going to suck a lot of times. You know what I mean? But there obviously is a God there. Jesus is real because I believed he, was in that room at that specific moment. But I don't even know where I'm going with this. I forgot the
No,
question.
that's good because I mean, my follow-up question was like, wondering what did that role of faith in Christ play in the recovery process, and really, truly, in deciding you weren't going to let it the injury define your life for your future, right?
Right.
So, speaking of that overwhelming comfort, that peace in the midst of a very significant storm in your life, is powerful. It's really powerful.
Yeah. No, it was, I could even say it was life changing. You know what I mean? Going from, suicidal thoughts to being like, all right, let's rock and roll, dude. Let's put your
Yeah.
big boy pants on, take the bull by the horns,
Right.
and insert cliche here, but let's rock and roll, and yeah, let's do it.
So, so when you when was it that you like when and how did you decide to get like back into the outdoors? I mean, because I'm sure that this was a process for you, but what was the first step where you're like, all right, I'm convinced I can do this.
So, I'd always loved fishing. Like I love fishing. Still to this day, I love getting lines wet. The tug is the drug, but um, fishing was fun, but it never it never consumed me the way hunting has.
Right.
And I always wanted to hunt, always wanted to hunt. And I was, working my way, working. Actually had a buddy who was telling me that, if I wasn't traveling, he would take me out, whatever, hunting turkey, whatnot. But my uncle got me he did some work for a friend who had some land, and he got they traded work for a deer hunt, and my uncle's like, "Hey, my nephew really wants to hunt. He's in a wheelchair." Da, da, da. The guy's like, "Yeah, like, come on, no worries, bring him on." And I had shot my first doe, and going from seeking the adrenaline of outrunning avalanches, jumping off cliffs, all that stuff. I had nothing. I had nowhere to put my adrenaline. Like, I had all this adrenaline built up, and I was still young, and I was like, I had no idea. But let me tell you, that first doe. I mean, okay, it's a doe, but when people talk about buck fever and the
Mm-hmm.
adrenaline, like, I've seen some of these videos of these little kids shooting their first deer, and I'm like, that was me, dude. Like, I remember that first doe that I shot, and you know how you're supposed to be quiet in the woods. Man, I shot that first doe, and my uncle, my dad drug that thing out of the woods. Yeah, he heard me in the blind, dude, and everyone's just like, "Shut the hell up, dude! You still have a tag to fill." I'm like, "I don't care, dude. I filled it."
That's not
Like,
important right now. Yeah, we run
after
with
that,
some guys like that, as you
dude.
get to know Kris and I, you know, we I get as excited as shooting a doe as I do a big buck. I
Oh
mean,
man,
I'll shoot a buck if he walks out in front of me, right? But we're meat hunters and we're not going to pass on much.
yeah,
So, and we know some guys that'll let out some war hoops whenever
yeah.
they're successful.
It
Oh, no
was,
bones about it. I'm a doe commander, man. That's the big nanny comes in, she's getting it every time.
yeah, no doubt about it. It was there's war cry is absolutely what you would call it for sure. I love it.
So Ron's an archery guy. So talk to him about how you got into like the adaptive stuff and the archery part of what you do now, and how that's kind of taking you by the horns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So hunting was it, and then after the doe evolved, I started working my way up the totem pole, but and then I just got immersed into the hunting life and the hunting world, and then you know a lot of people, that's the evolution kind of, you go from rifle to archery to whatever, but yeah, I started, and then I really wanted to just, no, I wouldn't necessarily progress, but just get up close and personal, because everything I was shooting at was, 100 plus, 100-yard
Right.
plus, and I really wanted to get up close and personal, and I was able to harvest my first pronghorn. I got a pronghorn out in eastern Colorado with archery gear, and just seeing that animal come up, being able to see it breathe, seeing the color of his eyes, and seeing the coat, the way the sun hits its fur and its coat, it's just different. It was way different. And then, you know, pulled back, drew, and sitting, put one right on a Boilermaker thing. They didn't go far and piled up, and it was just it's a total different feeling when when you have a relationship with your game. When
Yeah,
I'm plucking something, I'm poking something in the 100 plus. My farthest shot, I think of 500 yards. Like, you see an animal, and at that distance, it might as well be, a paper target. But man, when that pronghorn came in, and not only did I see it, it saw me. Like,
sure.
it knew that blind wasn't real. Like, this thing should not be there, but nothing's come out of it in this entire week.
You're working against nature, I mean, we're just in archery, I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you talk about it's not even always the animals we take, but having something come in that close and letting animals walk, letting them pass, and just like you said, having a relationship with the animal, it's completely different. And for our audience, um, we're northeastern, Pennsylvania, Maryland, mid-Atlantic states, eastern US. Like you're out west. And so, you're hunting some cool stuff that we don't get to hunt. So we're digging the story about the pronghorn and everything else.
Yeah, I love it. I've hunted out that way a couple times for whitetail. Haven't plucked anything yet, but no, but it was just like and like before I even harvested that pronghorn, I had several does come in, and like you're just sitting there and not moving, like not looking them in the eye either, kind of like looking down at the ground, but kind of like looking and just making yourself not visible. But it was as best as you could. But yeah, it's just being in nature and being a part of nature. Is just I'm kind of speechless like right now. Like those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. But like
Yeah.
the thoughts in my brain, it's somewhere between my brain and my mouth. There's a massive malfunction. I constantly find it. I don't know like what's wrong with it. I need to reboot this thing somehow. But it's just being immersed in nature and that's my favorite thing too about hunting is getting in a blind or in a tree stand, not for me, not a tree stand, but those of you who know, like in the dark before the morning comes up, and then you see the sun start creeping up and that blue light on the horizon starts creeping up. And then,
Mm-hmm.
the birds start chirping. You hear the squirrels and the stuff start smashing around in the trees and the leaves and whatever, bunny rabbits, and then you see deer and stuff start coming, just waking up in nature, waking up with the world and just seeing God's creation firsthand and being a part of that is
Yeah.
peace.
There's nothing like the sun coming up. You can say it 1,000 times. We say it, sound like broken records, but I mean, being out there and watching it wake up, watching the sun hit you. Yeah, you can't beat it. You can't explain it. There's no words. You gotta go see it yourself.
If you
You can take
haven't
a picture.
experienced it.
Yeah,
And for me, it's as much hearing the outdoors wake up as it is watching
Mhm.
the sunrise.
Yep.
Listening to the forest come alive and that sort of stuff. What
Mhm.
Derek? What are some like standouts? I was just saying about how like hunting pronghorn and stuff like that. Things I've never had the opportunity to go out west and hunt, but what are some standout different types of game that you've experienced, and maybe share a hunting story or two.
Yeah, so out here, I mean, we've got elk, all that, and
That's what we all
forgive me,
dream of.
Kris had asked me something earlier, like on like the archery career. I kind of want to touch on that a little bit, but it went just from shooting at the local range to finally getting a pronghorn
Mhm.
to now I'm doing competitive 3D archery shoots and working on this year I'm going to start my team USA mission to try to get there for the next Paralympics out there and just working my way up towards that. But yeah, it's so much fun, man. Especially, well, let's talk about out west. Like last year, I was able to finally get my first cow elk with a bow, and being in a wheelchair, and it was DIY public land. Like there was no like private land, friggin' game cameras. This is where they're coming out. This is where they're at every day. Like we went around every day grinding and finding. We finally found this small canyon. We could hear them off in the distance, but we were butted up right against private. And so we had come and during the middle of the day, there was kind of a lot of traffic, a lot of side-bys and ATVs, everyone's smashing around just because it was, it was public land. Public land hunting is kind of a cluster. But, we we found this ridge line, and we went and we got sawzalls and shovels, and we cut out a lane for my wheelchair to get through, and we're just chucking branches off to the side, and went down and found this little nook where we had built up a bunch of bushes and stuff like that to make a little mini blind, you know. And like the way I like to hunt too, a lot of the times is I'll go and I'll get like a camo burlap blanket, and I'll throw that over my wheelchair, because the wheelchair gives things away right away. But then I like just putting on a ghillie suit. You know, I'll sit in a ghillie suit and just back up against some bushes. So anyway, whatever, we got into there and got on the cow call. You know, never called a cow, never called an elk in, but just sitting there and just making all these sounds, you know, like you heard on TV. Like, I think they're doing a good job. Like, man, I'm killing this, dude. But you're scaring everything in Timbuktu, you know what I mean? But um yeah, had this had a cow elk come running down. So I was in like a valley, and I was up on top of one side, and then there was this little tiny valley where the little creek bed, and then the other side of the hill, probably from my side to the other side, was 40 yards, 50 yards. Um, but this cow elk came running down. Well, it wasn't a big cow elk. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna hide anything. It was probably a year or two, maybe. But day 6 of a 7-day hunt, DIY public land in a wheelchair. And I'm a firm believer, like, you take what the mountain gives you, you know,
Take
like,
your opportunities. Yeah.
exactly, you know. So this cow elk came in, and it came running, and it ran straight down out of my window and came up, and I was like, dang it, dude. So I'm sitting there, and then it kind of like, my buddy stopped calling for me because he was sitting behind me a little bit. My buddy stopped calling, and this thing started to walk out of the way, and it got back into my window, and I I find it funny to this day, like you get these cow calls, and they're like meow, like they sound like really like meow meow, and like they sound really good. But my mouth was so dry, my heart was thumping so hard. This cow elk comes, and I sounded like I sounded like a transvestite freaking elk. I was like, mew. This thing stopped, like mew. This is all I could get out, and the thing stopped, and it looked back over the shoulder, and I put one right in the Boilermaker at 43 yards, and this thing ran at like it's 2 o'clock, about 30 yards, stopped, and then just tumbled right back down the hill. And I was like, we just did that. Like, me and the boys had no idea what, you know, what was going on, but we pulled it off, dude. We pulled off the cow elk, and
Yeah.
that wasn't like, honestly, like that was cool. That was an amazing feat in my eyes, and my buddy's eyes, and like that was our objective. Anytime you accomplish your objective, you're like sick, you know what I mean? But it was those times sitting in the middle of the day, just sitting there, and with does walking around and through the bushes, and just sitting there, you know, not a sound, you know, just sitting there in peace. Like, I know we've kind of already touched on it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm addicted to. And like,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I got it. Yeah, it was cool, dude. I made a video out of it too, and I've had the video on hand, but I've been so like addicted to this podcasting thing, and like getting other people's stories, I haven't had time to put it out there. But
yeah.
man, it was a lot of fun.
Well,
That's one
piggyback off,
story. I have a bunch.
I'm sure. Yeah.
piggyback off of that, bro. Like, so somebody that's chased adventure, chased adrenaline, you know, now not only you had this accident, and I'm not trying to patronize you at all, but you have all these other, you know, for lack of a better term, handicaps, and then you're going to take a bow, you know, like, so you're just stacking it up. So tell me the feeling of that when you overcome all that and you have success. I mean, in my head, I'm listening to your stories, like pumped for you right now, you know, like, I'm like, this dude is just nailing it out there.
No, yeah, well, that's the thing is too, because once you get in a wheelchair, everybody doubts you, dude.
Yeah.
Everybody and their cousin doubts what's possible, what you can do. Like, oh, you need someone to take care of you all 24/7. You need someone to wipe your butt for you now. You know what I mean? Part of the imagery, you know what I mean? But it is what it is, dude. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's like I live a completely normal life, outside of like my leg's not working, like I drive, I got a job, like I provide for my family, like I do everything normal. It's just like, but people like I'm constantly, and people, like God bless their souls. Like ignorance is bliss. It's a real saying.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. But it's like people opening doors for you to think that you can't open a door for yourself. Or like when I'm out grocery shopping, people look at me like, "Oh, you're so inspirational." And be like, "I'm buying orange juice, bro." Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, I get where you're coming from, but it's like, what do you think? Just because I'm in a wheelchair, I'm just gonna roll up and die? Like, no,
Yeah.
dude. It's like we're normal people, we have lives, everything is what it is. It's harder, it's a little bit harder, but you know it builds character, and it gets you keep on going, dude. It is.
Yeah.
So tell us, like, your motto is this, adventure has no limits. And I know we talked about like the adrenaline rush and that sort of thing, but, like, one of the biggest lessons you've learned about pushing barriers and pushing past barriers?
Dang, one of the biggest lessons I've learned, huh? um Never put what God can do in a box. Like, never think like, oh, like God can do all things, yeah, but in my life, it could only do what I've seen. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, in this, like a little container, but anything you think God can do or what you can do so much more. And that's another thing too, is accomplishing stuff that is extremely hard, and just accomplishing that is, for somebody, like for you guys, for instance, like you'd be like, oh, that's minor, you know what I mean? Like I do that every day, but not having your legs working and having to work so much, like just getting dressed, some like when I was originally got hurt, like getting dressed, I'd be breaking a sweat just to get my pants on, dude. Like it
Mhm.
Yeah.
was super, super hard to do stuff like that. But it's never doubt what you can do, and don't be weak. You can do it. It may take longer. It's gonna take longer. It's gonna be harder. Yeah, all that, all the above, dude. But you can do it. Put your big boy pants on and freaking take care of it. Charge it.
Yeah.
Stop making excuses. Stop whining and just get after it.
You mentioned it a minute ago, but dive into and segue into your podcast, man. How you've taken that and kind of changed gears with some stuff here.
Yeah. So I mean, we all, deer camp. Everyone's talking stories. Everyone's telling, stories and like this. And I had found like that's where I have the most fun, and that's like where my heart's at, and like where like passion, like talking hunting stories. I could talk hunting stories all day long, and it's just random people too. And it's super cool, man, because like I've talked to a couple people I've had on my podcast who are like super fresh in their injury, and right after your injury, there's a massive window of depression, anxiety, anger, just rage at the world. God, why me? The whole woe is me mindset. But once we start talking hunting stories, you just see them light up. You see people light up and like, oh yeah, da 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 da. We just start talking hunting stories, and then when I originally started, that's all I wanted to do was just talk hunt stories and just to tell people how to get outdoors, how to get people outdoors into nature, like find ways that help save, I don't know, maybe help save my life, and
Right.
coming from like, hey, contact your local game warden, you know, contact these 501c3s, these foundations, this XYZ, this is how you do it, you know what I mean? And it's like, and then you go and it started like showing people how to get outdoors. And now I'm like, well, I should start talking about the things that I didn't have information to when I first got hurt. Because when I first got hurt 16 years ago, you know, a lot of people, there's a lot more information, you know, like social media now. You know what I mean? Social media could be extremely toxic, but it could be extremely powerful and beneficial if you use it the correct way and you apply it to networking positively. And so just by doing that and like hearing people, so I wanted to fill those holes that I had, that I was looking for. So now, you know, I'm using the podcast to start talking people building, to like how to, you know, how to build character, how to overcome mindset, how to get in the gym, get physically fit, archery, rifle shooting, long range shooting. And then, uh, I forgot where I was going. That malfunction I talked about earlier just flared up again there. You know, but it's like, and then, oh yeah, so then and then I've had people on my podcast about sobriety, you know, the mental aspect of being in a wheelchair, working out in the gym. I already touched on that, but it's just all that stuff comes into play, and I don't know, man. I love it. I can talk, and when you put like the whole saying, it's better to give than to receive. Like, I can't say it enough. It is so much better. Like a lot of people, you know, when they like all they wanted to do is hunt, but then when they take someone hunting for their first time and they see their friend or a kid or a child harvesting animal, then they're like, wow, you know, like powerful, you know, like
Yeah.
that's what I want to do now. So
Yeah.
that's my, I don't know, that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to just trying to push it forward and get people happy.
So how long you been doing the podcasts?
Honestly, man, I'm not gonna lie. So I've only been doing the podcast. I've been at it about 3 months now. But like I just I love just talking with people and talking hunting stories. Like
No doubt.
I'm I've only dropped probably 14, 15 episodes, but I've got like my cache is like 40, 50 podcasts deep now that are just
Wow.
waiting for. I'm honestly thinking about just dropping 2 a week. But
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
having fun, man. I love it. It's just so much
that's what we're
fun.
about. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why we wanted you to come on too, Derek, because we're all about just having fun, and we get to meet a lot of really cool people through doing this. I mean, just like you said, we want to talk hunting, we want to talk about the outdoors. We have a common interest, and there's a ton of people out there, right? Just like us, just like you. And we this is a medium or a platform where we can come together and we can swap stories and you know, share best practices, and we get to meet a lot of really really cool people through this. So you know, I think back like when we first started, and I say it all the time, like even now, like when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing, and even now, I don't know what I'm doing, but we just are having fun telling stories and meeting new people, and
Right.
we're enjoying it, man. So that it's the T8 Outdoors podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. On Apple and Spotify, if you just type in T8 Outdoors podcast, that's what'll come up. But
All right.
on YouTube, it's T8 underscore outdoorsman. That's because I had that before, long before I started the podcast. But yeah.
Well, we'll link to all of those in the episode description. And for like closing messages, you know, what would your message be to somebody who's listening this, who's facing their own challenges? You know, whether it's just feeling stuck or feeling that they're going through a tough season. What would you say to them?
Don't don't limit what God can do. Like put and honestly, it just takes like, because there were so many times there where I would stay in my room, stay in my bedroom, and just let, like the Bible says, idle minds lead to temptation. And it's not even necessarily like temptation to do sin, but it's like idle minds is the devil's playground. That's where the
Yeah.
depression and all that and the thoughts and all that could creep in. But it's just getting outside and just going for a walk outdoors is monumental. And
Yeah.
just get outside and just walk. And that's where your mind is really allowed to thrive and grow and prosper, is when you're outside. And just because that, like, I can't tell you how many like ideas and stuff like I've had in my life have come just from rolling around the block. And just don't limit yourself. Don't limit what God can do in your life into like a little tiny box. I have so many just like stuff, so much stuff I want to say, but that's the biggest thing I can say. Because one domino is two, and then 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. Once you get that ball rolling and the momentum going, and you see the fruits of your labor, and you see how life could actually start like blossoming in front of you, you're like, all right, like, I
Yeah.
like where this is going. I'm gonna pursue this. I'm gonna put my nose to the grindstone and see where it leads.
Right.
What does 3B always say, Kris, about the outdoors?
Get outdoors.
Get outdoors, man. Just get
Yeah. I mean,
outdoors.
you can't, I tell my wife that all the time, my kids, just go outside, reset. You're having a rough time with this. Just go get some sun on your face, take a deep breath. And I mean, that's what it's there for. I mean, we're positioned perfectly in the universe by a creator for one reason, right? That sun hits you, you can't
Right.
beat it. You know what I'm
God,
saying? Like,
yeah. God didn't create you to just sit inside a house and sit inside the dark all day, every day.
yeah,
God created this massive, massive arena of like the word of God says, is creation, and the things you see when you go outside testify to his name and testify to
yeah.
his glory.
Well, it's funny, I change where I sit sometimes, and I got all these. I'm into the duck hunting and stuff like that. But one thing is, man, you look at these things. You look up a picture of a wood duck. I mean, you can't deny that somebody created that. Like, it's the most beautiful thing. Like the colors on it, like, and then when it gets in the woods, I got one hanging up over here, man. It's got crazy colors on, oranges and reds and all these crazy colors, but it's in the woods. You can't see the thing. Like, it's, how can you deny that God didn't make that? It just, you look around these things and you just get lost in it, you know? So,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've never gone duck hunting before, and it's something I'd absolutely love to get into one day. But I'm in a NHL ice hockey. I like ice hockey above all the other, bread and circus sports. But it my favorite team is the Anaheim Ducks. And
yeah,
that's just mainly from I live at and where I'm from. That's
yeah,
our local
Right.
team, but it just so happens to be a duck. I'm like, all
yeah.
right,
Well, you're halfway there, dude. Like
yeah,
Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
right. Living on tons of prayers, man, tons of prayers.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Derek, this has been a cool conversation, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Any final thoughts or shout outs before we wrap up and roll the closing credits?
Yeah. I say yeah, and then I brain fart. But it's, dude, get outside, get outdoors. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously, halfway there living on a prayer. But um shout out, there's several other people who are doing adaptive podcasts. And for me, I'm going to say it for myself real quick. I'm building up a list of 501c3s, foundations, groups of good old boys who take people into the backcountry. I'm going to have a website, a list. If you guys want to check out my Instagram, it's at T8 _ Outdoorsman. That's T8 _ Outdoorsman. And that's the same as my YouTube. And then, so with that, I'm going to be putting on a website, and then I'm going to have all the lists of the 501c3s and foundations and groups of people who take people in the woods. But by doing that, but there's other people out there who have killer podcasts. Like I got a friend who's got a adaptive podcast that's made for like people with disabilities, the Adaptive Outdoorsman. And then there's Able Outdoors and Accessible Outdoors. Like check out those three, and there's just good people doing work. If if you got even if you don't have a disability, if you want to just hear some overpowering and overcoming stories, how people are actually like, getting out there and kicking butt, not letting life take, win. Um,
Yeah,
check them out. Yeah, that's all I can say. Yeah, to throw out the socials, all that.
Yeah,
for sure.
we'll tag you in the description and all of your pages, and we'll point anybody that's listening to this show to check you out at the T8 Outdoors podcast. Derek Demun, appreciate you coming on, brother. Hang in there. I'm going to roll the end credits, and then we can chat for a few minutes. But thanks a lot, bro.